Hello friends out there in YouTube land, this is Robert Hamm with Robert Hamm Photography. Today we are continuing our conversation with the much anticipated Roll 2. These are my shots 11 through 20 with the Mint TL70. Now I am having an absolutely excellent time with this camera and I want to share my successes with you and as well as tell you about some of the obstacles I'm encountering and how I overcome them. Remember, I've got a full review on this camera. There's updates coming daily, but I am putting together right now all my information for a developer series on this camera so that we'll have it all in a classroom kind of environment where we sit down with on-the-scene footage as well as information that I'm presenting to you. Should be a lot of fun, much like I did with my Instax and Fujifilm Mini 90 series. Let's get into it. I'm going to try to keep this video to about 5 minutes. You guys that watch often will know that's a stretch. So if you stick around, go ahead and comment, well done. Also, one last thing, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button. Also hit that thumbs up button. We want to give a lot of shout out to Mint and let them know that we appreciate what they're sharing. Poor camera gets a lot of flack because the camera is very technical. You got to know a lot about photography in order to get the best results. You can go out there and push buttons all you want, but if you aren't thinking and creating, and if you're just wildly pressing shutter buttons, you're not going to have the best results with this camera. This is not just a point and shoot camera. This isn't a professional tool for creation, and it needs to be treated as such. Which means, let's think about what we're doing. Okay, so here's shot number 11. This is the 11th shot I took. I'm going to do this one a little different than the first. I'm going to show you each image. Right here, we notice I immediately took quite a bit of a step up. I couldn't remember what the exposure compensation was. I was at f5.6 and I used negative exposure compensation. I can't remember the light. Sky is backlit. It's very bright. We're at golden hour, but we're kind of overcast. There's not a lot of sun coming through right now. Stepping that down just a little bit, we're at my 12th image. Now I'm at f8. Notice immediately from f5.6 to f8 we get quite a bit more, but even here we can see quite a bit of the blur. We're getting quite a bit of bokeh right there, which is really nice, and definitely at 5.6, but we just don't have enough contrast to see it. Even with these overexposed images, notice that the lens produces a warm, high fidelity image, meaning that we've got quite a bit of sharpness through our focal area. Even though it's overexposed, we've got detail, and we receive that warmth from the lens. That is something that you'll notice many Instax cameras, although very clear and high clarity with very high contrast, produce a much cooler image. And Instax Film is really weighted towards the greens and the blues. So to be able to produce a warm image is kind of neat. You're going to see what the lens can do here in just a moment. Continuing on with our next image, this is shot 13. Notice I use f16 with negative exposure compensation. Now we're cooking with fire. Look at that. Now at f16 I started to notice some vignetting, and as I talked about in the very first video, this is a rotary aperture. So the aperture is on a dial. In order to make sure that you don't get vignetting, you need to set your aperture very carefully. There's a slight detent where the aperture naturally seats itself, and if you don't do that, especially with the smaller apertures, if you don't rock the aperture button back and forth, then the aperture on the other side of the lens will actually be off skew. So instead of lining up with the lens, it'll be off to one side or the other, and that's what produces the vignetting. So, quick pro tip, you want to get rid of vignetting, don't do what I did and set your aperture more carefully. Immediately we can begin to see, even at f16, we've got separation of the subject from the background, and now we're beginning to see that detail, the beautiful warmth in the camera. We still have some overcast skies that are covering up, and then something crazy happened. This image happened. Ira jumped down, and right as he did, the light changed. And this is the 14th shot I took with this camera. If this was you, and this was your 14th shot, you would be on High Rock Hill celebrating, maybe with a Coke, soda, some popcorn, and your friends and family. This is a beautiful image. Excellent background blur, bokeh's beautifully rendered, gorgeous bright light. That golden light from the sun hit. f8, negative exposure compensation. What a great image. Continuing on, I wanted to push it, so I dropped it down to f16 with negative exposure compensation. I wanted to see what the camera would do. Nice thing to notice, the camera automatically adjusts the shutter speed in order to produce a very similar exposure. So even though we stopped down and we're using negative exposure compensation, we are still getting that similar exposures. The problem is when I went to f16, I didn't know at the time about the rotary aperture. I wasn't paying attention. So at f16, once again, f8, nothing, f16. Look at this. f8, f8, no vignetting. f16, f16, vignetting. So what does that tell me? As we'll find later, when you set your aperture appropriately and carefully, you won't get that vignetting. Let's keep moving on. I wanted to push it even further, and look at this. I went for a low-key element. Look, f22 with negative exposure compensation. This is how bright it was. It was so bright that the golden light was still able to light up my son's face. Now, here is a time where the vignetting is really awesome and emotive. Can you imagine this photo in black and white? How cool is that? Even here, this is a cool image. This was number 17, guys. This is within the first 2-pack. How awesome is that? I wasn't going to stop there. I wanted to continue and get another shot of my son. I went back to 16 with negative exposure compensation. And if you hear those birds right now, I am going to be driven crazy by the birds. But this is the shot that really made me think that this camera had something extra special. We are, once again, the light has changed. It's overcast. My son's in the car. He fell and knocked something over. Thought he got a little sad. We weren't mad with him. He was sad because he felt like he did something wrong. He didn't. His expression's cute, but sad, and that's too bad. Look at the separation from the background with the bokeh. Look at the detail. It's not so contrasty in this that we lose the shot of the highlights or the shadows. We have a nice highlight and shadow gradation all the way across, and the image is warm. Let's look a little closer. Maybe we can get this to focus a little better for you. The image is nice and warm. So we're in the shadows with an overcast time, and it's got a warm image. That is crazy. That's something awesome. Well, when that happened, I said, I've got to take this picture out at night. So my 18th, 19th, and 20th, I should say, images, we went down to the Virginia Beach fishing pier, and this was at f5.6 at nighttime with flash. I learned I should have used a bulb or maybe some exposure compensation on the plus side, but that's still in the middle of the night. This is 11 o'clock, guys, or 10 p.m., I should say. We were out there for an hour, and then look at this. That's the moon in the background. This is a 5.6 flash plus bulb. People are walking by, and that's what we get. So they're walking by, the shutter's open long enough to get the moon. My kids are staying there. The scene is set with the flash, and then even though people are walking by, we don't see them. We see a little bit of some face there, but now, I should have thought about this more. This is a cool picture. I could have actually composed this quite a bit better, but as a test, it stands on its own. Excellent work right here. So guys, this has been my wrap-up of Roll 2, as I would call it, of course, cartridge 2. We're at 7 minutes, 36 seconds. I didn't get the 5-minute mark, but I hope I gave you some great tips to make your Instax photography better with the TL70. Guys, I'm Robert Hamm. I think I'm going to go over there and shake my flume so the birds shut up. And I want to thank you for watching. I want to remind you, you can catch more of this on Instagram at RobHammPhoto. You can find out all kinds of cool stuff with Mint, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. I want to thank you for watching.